Mostly expansion for Brass Kisses is going to be, I mean, we'd like to have a storefront, more than anything. It'll probably be local here. But the next point would be getting into box stores, Walmart, Sportsman's, all the bigger box stores. We had done it before with the first ammunition brand, so I understand the process of it, but it's making sure the business is in the right place to be able to consistently supply them.
Welcome back to the Blake Technologies podcast. I'm here with Brad, and he's representing his company, Brass Kisses. He's got an awesome deal going on right now for free local shipping on all orders. So if you're in the area and you need ammunition, then go to brasskisses.com and you'll find all the right stuff. There's a couple other businesses that I would like to shout out that have been recently added to the St. GZ mobile app, and one of which is the Caveman Candy. Is that what that is? Caveman Candy Shop. I think they do like all natural kind of ingredients for sweets and treats. So they've got a deal on there for 10% off catering. I think I've shouted out to Kabuto before, but they've still got their 30% discount between 12 and 5 p.m. So on any order, you can just get your 30% discount off there. More and more businesses are joining every single day, and with reason, because it's free marketing. And so, yeah, we're really excited to be able to offer this to not only the area, but soon we'll be reaching out to, we'll be expanding outside of St. George. Family man, I'm the exact same way. I think that, cause I live and breathe code. I'm always working on if it's either for a client or my business or just, for fun, that's my hobby. I like to build apps.
Interesting.
And so, but yeah, aside from that, like I have very little time to just like do fun things that I like to do. And I've got 3 kids. I've got Killian is 5, Kai is 3, and Taylin is almost 1.
Nice.
So yeah, I mean, same deal. I just live and breathe work and family right now. I'm trying to raise these boys to be men, and
nice.
And
see, and I'm opposite. I'm trying to raise the girls to find good men.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
we're on the opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah. I'll be getting into that the next few years. We'll see how that goes. Right. I mean, the hope is that it works out. Right.
Yep. Yeah. I always feel it's a representation of how you show up every day. Right. If I show up in a positive way to my daughters, then that's what they'll look for when they start looking for men. If anything right now, friends, kids, the activities they're involved in, if I can be the example of what's right and what's wrong, then that's where I take pride in my job as a dad.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like teaching. Yeah, you live as a father 2 different ways for your daughters and your sons.
Oh yeah,
I feel like, right?
Yeah.
You want to show them the right things according to who you're.
I always say I was giving girls on purpose. I was a little wild in my younger years, and so I feel like God gave me girls to not only change me, but to have a different perspective on how to be as a man.
Yeah, which is awesome, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like, what better way to be a man than to like have women in your life that help you be that person.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. And so, tell me about, so you were mentioning the guns and how often do you go shoot and where do you go shoot here in town? I'm new. I moved here just before Thanksgiving in 2024. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I mean, I went to high school here, but as a father and an adult right now, I don't know where to go to do these things, but so, I'm into it.
Yeah. Warner Valley is typically where I go. Okay. There's another, I think it's called Deerhead Trail. I honestly don't know the name. I just know how to get there thanks to Blake. But we go out there and train. Really, if you're out here, any public land you could go shoot on. Just be mindful of the other outdoor activities, like the people on the razors, the dirt bikes, and no gun safety, know where you're shooting, things like that. But there's a plethora of places to be out here, which is completely opposite. I grew up in California, and you're very restricted on where you can shoot. And so moving out here, I never really shot guns till I moved out here, and I was lucky enough to get in with a local munitions factory, and that kind of sparked my interest in the whole sport and industry. And so kind of from that point, it's been building. But if you find any public land out here, it's the best place to go. Just be mindful. And then there's a great hunting ranch called Big Cottonwood.
Big Cottonwood.
Yeah, it's out past Ivins. You could do chucker, pheasant. Those are 2 I know. Those are 2 I've done. But I know that they do other things. They have a cool clean station, place to barbecue your food. But it's neat. 600 acres in one of the most beautiful places in the world. So you can't beat it.
What kind of hunting can you do there?
Chucker and pheasant. That's what I've done. Yeah. Okay. I think they do other hunting, but the chucker was fun. They raise the birds. So when you start, it's kind of cool because you know how many birds are out there. So you don't really want to stop till you get all your birds, right?
Yeah.
But they do a good job. They guide you, they point you in the right direction, and it makes the experience fun for those that haven't done it before. And it kind of builds on giving you the confidence to go out in the public lands, get your tags, and hunt a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever had a bad experience hunting?
No. But to me, in all honesty, any experience comes down to the company, whether it's a good or a bad experience, right? I feel like any bad experience can be good if you're in the right company.
Yeah, I agree. Whether it's, people, right? If you're with the right people.
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, like every time I go out, no matter if I get anything or not, I found a good time, right?
Yeah.
It's a good time.
Especially with good people. It's always fun. I mean, I kind of look at life in general that way. I try to keep the company around me good.
Yeah.
Again, it comes down to how I've changed as a person because of my daughters. And so it's changed my mindset on, okay, really make sure you have the right people in your circle because that's going to change the experience on everything you do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. So you mentioned a little bit there that getting into this industry at a factory is kind of what sparked all this interest. So tell me a little bit more about that experience.
Yeah. So, I moved here, it was roughly 14, 15 years ago. And at the time I was working, I moved here to help my grandparents. My grandpa had cancer and my grandma needed help with them. Yeah. And I worked at Walmart because it was close to where my grandma lived in Hurricane. And it was easy. I was supposed to move back home at this point, home being California. And I didn't necessarily want to do that. So I started looking for other careers that I could pursue. And I found this job at a ammunition factory where I was supposed to be doing logistics, basically doing all their shipping.
Okay.
And then day one, they had one of their loaders, one of the guys that worked their machine presses, he ended up quitting or getting fired. I don't remember. And so the owner had come out and he said, "Hey, we're going to try you on one of the machines." And I was like, "No way. Nope. I know nothing about this. I'm not your right person." And he convinced me into doing it. And I absolutely fell in love with it. I don't know if it was just like the mundane process or just the machine itself and having to repair it constantly, but it kept my hands busy and my mind busy. So it was like the perfect 8-hour job to be distracted and kind of like delve into something totally different than anything I've experienced. And prior to this, just for some background, I worked in the movie industry, worked for Warner Brothers, Universal. I worked on the Olympics. I was in a bunch of shows and movies. And so my work history did not match this job field at all.
Wow.
But I knew logistics. I knew how to ship things. I knew how to pack things. How hard could it be, right? And so I was like, well, it'd be fun to go work for a company that does guns and ammo. Seems like the right thing to do in Utah, especially with the people around here. And so I fell in love with it. I ended up getting my gunsmithing certificate. I spent almost 2 years pursuing any kind of certificate I could find in the industry, just so I could be the best at what I do. And whether that meant the best at what I do at that factory or just on an industry level, it didn't matter. Whatever I do, I try to put my all into it so I can be the best in that field.
Okay. Tell me more about the movie stuff. I'm curious. What kind of stuff were you working on?
So on the acting side, I did something called skilled talent. So they have extra skilled talent, and then they have the actors. And so I did a whole bunch of sports things. I was in 17 again. I was in Moneyball. I was in basically any TV show that had sports in it was what I was doing at that time. And it was perfect because at the time I worked for a baseball academy. So I was able to be lenient with my schedule there and go and make extra money working in the movie industry. And being in California, it's one of those fascinating industries. You want to know how those things work.
Yeah. And
so I had started on the skilled talent side. And then I was like, okay, I need to find, I can't be an actor. It wasn't something I was interested in. I fell into a couple roles with it, but I was like, okay, how can I stay on sets or how can I stay a part of this industry? And so I got a job working as a showrunner, basically just getting coffee, paperwork, pens for people.
Yeah.
And then I got in close with an editor and became an assistant editor on a bunch of different pilots that we did over the years.
No way.
And then I got into to Universal Sports, where I worked as an admin on the admin staff. But it was an absolute blast because, again, I was back in sports. And it was the Olympics, so I was working on one of the greatest sports events in history, right? So it was just kind of being a part of those moments. So it's pretty normal to bounce around studios. And so I bounced around studios, and at that time I had gotten sick and went through a medical phase where I became addicted to the medication that I was put on. And so really that was part of the transition to Utah, was I needed to get out of the environment that I was in. One, because it was so acceptable in the movie industry to be on drugs constantly, that it was like, okay, if I don't pull myself from this place, then nothing's ever going to pull me from this place. And so Grandpa got sick, and then it was kind of like a perfect marriage of, let's move to Utah, let's get out of that element, and let's get into a new element, make some new friends, get new surroundings, and kind of start a new path.
My brother has been like recovering from everything. He's been a heroin addict for a long time. And the biggest thing that has ever helped him, and through my eyes, and I think he would say the same, is changing location.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. If you just take yourself out of bad environments and go into new environments, it can be stressful, but it's like it's a clean slate.
Yeah.
It's like it's a chance to move forward. And so like he used to be here in Southern Utah, and then now he lives up in Montana right now.
Oh, awesome.
But it's been a great thing for him.
Yeah.
And it's been sort of something that our whole family has been with him through his whole life. But man, I've learned so many awesome, good things from my brother, because he is all the good things that anybody could ever ask for as far as qualities in a human being. It's just this one thing that kind of holds him back from his, it's just been a hard thing for him, and therefore making it a little like hard for his family and the people around him that love him to be with him in on it,
Yeah, and no, so, I know that my family was all in on helping me too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
My story is a little bit different in the sense that it wasn't from when I was a kid or anything, but it just became, I was the quarterback in high school, I was the captain of the baseball and football team. I hate the term popular, if you will say. And so when I went down this path, it was kind of a shock to our community at the time. So I was that person in the community. A lot of people looked up to me. At that time, technology was becoming big. So we had radio stations, we had TV stations. I was kind of all over the community for the sports side of it. And so when this happened, it was kind of a shock to everybody that this could happen. Yeah. Especially being my parents are cops and my whole family's law enforcement. So I was kind of the last person that was looked at that something like this could happen to. And it was one of those things where it came about medically. I didn't start using drugs for fun. It wasn't a recreation. It wasn't to escape anything. It was to deal with something I was going through. And so by the end of it, it had kind of switched from, well, now I'm addicted to it, and how does this continue to keep going without interrupting my life? And I had so many good things happening in life to where I couldn't go and take 30, 60 days. When you don't know anything, you're just like, oh, it's going to take 30, 60 days to recover, and then you'll be back to normal. And I couldn't take 30 to 60 days with my work schedule. Yeah. And so you just kept it going until it finally hits a head from some of your decisions, and your family either intervenes or something else happens, and then you kind of start a new path. But yeah, I've been clean since 2014. I haven't touched anything since. Yeah. So my whole life's been focused on building other things and kind of sharing my story so other people could hopefully get something out of it and change their path.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's valuable. I tell you what, your story is a very valuable story to very many people, because number one, it's hopeful, right? Mm-hmm. I think the whole point of life in general is we have hope in things, right? Yes. We have hope in things. Well, that things will work out the way we want it to in whatever circumstance or whatever, environment that means, Yeah. And that's all one can hope for is to see the light at the end of the tunnel and believe that they can get there, right? That's super cool. So this brings you into Utah, and
brings me into Utah, yeah.
And you've started this awesome job at a munitions factory, right? And you're working on this crazy machine that's really hard to work on. I'm out of curiosity, if we can go into sort of a how it's made segment of the show. What is the process that goes into munitions factory?
It's kind of a several part faceted thing, but you have the pieces that make up a cartridge or a piece of ammunition, which is your primer, your powder, your casing, and then your projectile.
Yeah.
The factory I was working at pieced everything together. So they would order in the primers, the brass, the powder, and the cartridges, and we'd piece everything together. And we'd take those, what they call components, and then it would go into the machine and through different feeding sources. And then that machine would piece it together. And then once it was pieced together, it'd go through a quality control process. And so it was, we had certain goals we had to hit every day to, make sure the company kept making the money it needed to, the orders were met, etc. And the equipment we had was terrible. It was awful.
Yeah.
But I took pride in being able to keep this equipment going, even though the company couldn't afford to invest into anything new. So I just found ways to make this thing work consistently. One, so that I could keep working, but two, so that I kind of placed a foothold there for me to have a career for as long as possible.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we went through a period where the business ended up shutting down. They had to sell everything off. But fortunately, I was smart enough to go to them and say, hey, before you go and do the auction, let me buy some of this stuff. I'll pay whatever auction prices are and I'll take it off your hands now. You guys can keep the money and I'll move forward. So I ended up buying some of the equipment from them, bringing it to my house and loading it in my garage for like 6 months and selling it to friends and family and anybody else I could sell it to. And then from there, it kind of grew and we ended up getting a building in Cedar City. We got a 5,000 square foot building in Cedar City.
All right.
Still did the same thing, retail. I don't know that I knew how to grow a business at this time. I was 24. So I really had no idea what I was doing. I just knew how to make ammunition really well. And I knew how to improve the process to, one, make it better, and then make sure our product was consistent as it was going out the door. So I improved our quality control process, which in turn improved our quality. And then we just kept adding machines and people. Right around this time was when we had entered the war in Iraq, Afghanistan, everything in the Middle East was going on. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows the movie War Dogs, right?
Yeah.
So government contracts were plentiful. So my goals are always way too big for the pants that I fill. And so
that's good. That means you're
no, it is. Yeah.
Them,
Yeah. And really my philosophy is I may fail at this, but it's never really a failure because if you learn something, then you have a place to start from again. Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I went at this head on as a 24-year-old working with the US government, helping them write white paper for ammunition they've never dealt with. I was flying to the Middle East, flew to Bulgaria, Russia. I had generals in the UN that I was working with on a consistent basis.
Wow.
All before the age of 25. And we ended
That's
up
like real life War Dogs, man.
It was, yeah, it was.
So cool.
It was. And so we ended up expanding to a 50,000 square foot building in Cedar.
Okay.
For all to come crumbling down. It all crashed. It all failed.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was one of those things where it's in the moment, your world's imploding. Everything's being taken from you and you're kind of like, okay, what's next, right? What's the next thing?
Yeah, so I'm curious, how do you recover from that situation?
Literally one step at a time,
okay.
Right? I mean, the hard part is like you're going to have down moments in there. Everybody makes it seem so much simple. It's lessons learned. It's one step at a time. It's one day at a time. There is probably the hardest moments of my life ever came from there. I would take the drug addiction over some of the moments I went through when I lost this business.
Okay. Yeah. That's really interesting.
It was challenging. Yeah. I wasn't even 30 yet. I just turned 30. My daughter wasn't even one. We were in a new house. Everything was taken from us. Everything, cars, furniture. At the end of it, we were left in our house with a beanbag and our dogs, like a beanbag chair and our dogs. Yeah. And it was like, okay, what's next? And so what we did was we ended up selling the house. So it kind of gave us a little bit of money to get by. We moved in with my in-laws and we lived with them for about 6 months. And it was, okay, on to the next thing. I have a very driven mind to figure things out. And so my goal was to figure things out. And so I had found that subscription-based businesses was a good way to make recurring revenue. Whereas like ammunition was great, but it was very much based on the market. So market, politics, everything else. So we'd have this up and down thing that we dealt with forever. Great during the war, but once the war kind of fizzled out, the market kind of fizzled out. So though it was a very terrible situation, it also was a blessing because I would have also had the challenges of what do I do in a down market with all this equipment, all these employees, all this overhead.
Yeah.
So it kind of forced anew. And so I have friends all over in the sporting industry and Supercross. And I figured, okay, I'll make a subscription-based business where people can if they want to surf one day, because action sports is expensive.
Yeah.
They could surf one day, they could turn in their board and get a skateboard, or they could turn in their surfboard and get a snowboard.
Okay.
And so we went out and started this business. It was small, but we ended up selling it for a little bit of money. It turned into a good thing, but it really was it was a small chapter that led to my next chapter.
All right.
Next chapter ended up being in the cannabis industry, which I had just happened to be in California for the weird little time frame that all popped up. But I knew manufacturing, right? I knew how to manufacture. I knew how to manufacture things well. The cannabis industry knew their product, but they didn't know how to consistently put out good product well.
Okay.
So I went in and consulted for businesses on how to consistently manufacture their product well. And I did that for about 3 years. I helped some stores and warehouses open. And then I had the opportunity to buy another ammunition business. I didn't buy it. My wife ended up buying it. It became her project, but I came in and consulted her on how to, do the business, but mostly how to make the ammunition well, how to get it out the door, and where to get products from on a continuous basis. So like the first business where they brought in components, pieced them together, and sent them out the door under a brand, I helped her get to that point to bring in the products, build them, get them out the door consistently. And then she ended up selling the business, I think, for $4 or $5 million 2 years later, 2 years after we bought it. So it kind of all went through this huge up and down wave to kind of bring us back to that same point. When that business sold, I was in a weird place. The owner ended up moving the business. I didn't move with them. And so I was like, okay, now what's next? Like, what's my next project? And in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're okay for a little bit. I'll go get a job. I'll go work for someone. Let's try that. And so I ended up working for a local plumbing company of all places. Honestly, I took it because I was like, this is simple. I'm going to be in a warehouse. I'll collect my check. I'll get to come home to my family. We can just enjoy life simply. I won't have the craziness of the entrepreneur life. And I did that for 3 years. And I helped the business owner sell his business to a corporation. And once the business sold to the corporation, everybody was kind of split up, and I was let go. A bunch of us were let go. And then it became, okay, what's next?
Wow.
So, so I took the knowledge and information that I had from the plumbing business, and I started my own plumbing, HVAC, and electrical business, because just might as well use the skills you learn, right? And so through there, though, it had always been nagging me that I wanted to be back in the ammunition gun industry. And so I leveraged my relationship, leveraged some of my equipment, I work with a company out of Salt Lake and a company out of Oregon, where they help us manufacture. I've improved their manufacturing process to increase production so I can use the supply, but I don't have all the crazy overhead or crazy day-to-day that ammunition factory does. I'm still very involved in the process. One, to make sure our product is consistent in quality, but two, it's a love, it's a passion. So.
Yeah, that's awesome. So is this Brass Kisses that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
All right. Awesome. So so then you're gonna have to explain to me, help me understand what does your day-to-day look like in the life of Brad?
Oh, man.
As of right now. I mean, you're an entrepreneur. Mm-hmm. It's very clear to me that you're an entrepreneur at heart, because you're talking about processes, and processes are the key to everything, building a business.
Yep.
And oftentimes, like you've been explaining, it's pretty easy to tell that like processes carry over from one business to another. It's just a matter of figuring out what process to put in place.
That's why I say my passion's business, not necessarily the business that I'm a part of.
Yeah.
It's the back end of a business I understand very well. And the other part I understand very well is that the business doesn't need me to run. It just needs the processes to run. So if you can implement the processes, then the business will continue to run whether I'm here or not. And so right now, my day to day is I'm up at 4:35 every day, and it's on self work. I always do self work, whether it's going for a run, reading, meditating, making sure I eat the right foods. That's what starts my day. My day kind of ends the same way right now, where I'm in the gym, kids are asleep, family's asleep, I'm back in the gym, keeping myself right. Because if I'm not right, my head's not right, and I'm not being a good leader to those around me, then nothing else is going to follow. So that's how my day starts. I get into the office usually 7:30 to 8 after I've spent some time with the kids in the morning, done everything I've needed to do. And then I have two businesses to attack, which one's the Brass Kisses and the other one's the plumbing company.
All right.
So I kind of separate. The first hour of my day is completely focused on Brass Kisses. One, making sure that everyone's doing what they're supposed to do. But the other half is also building out our SOPs, our standard operating procedures. It's a pretty new business, but I would like to be to the point to where I'm less involved in the day-to-day and more involved in the growing of the business. So half of that is growing the business, half of it's making sure the business can continue to run. And then the rest of my day is devoted to problem solving. Really, whatever the business is, it's the problem solving.
That makes perfect sense to me, especially in software development. It's all about the problems you're solving.
Yep.
So that's really cool. So what? This is an online company, Brass Kisses, and you're. I'm guessing you're selling nationwide.
Yeah, 48 states.
Okay, 48 states. Tell us about that. Like, what is the experience of expanding? This is something that, for example, the St. Jeezy app, we're currently piloting in St. George, hence the name. But we're coming into a rebranding phase here so we can expand outside of the state, right? So out of curiosity, what is your experience on expansion and scalability?
Relationships first.
Okay.
Without the relationships and the people that you have, not necessarily in your corner, but people you can go out and get in your corner, that's going to get you to expand faster than anything else. We only know so much, right?
Yeah.
But there's a ton of people out there that know a lot more than us. So big part of my day is talking to a lot of these relationships to figure out, okay, what can I do to expand here? Or looking at what have we done here that doesn't work that we could try here. And then what we do find that works, we double down on it, and then we look for the next avenue. But mostly expansion for Brass Kisses is going to be, we'd like to have a storefront, more than anything. It'll probably be local here. But the next point would be getting into box stores, Walmart, Sportsman's, all the bigger box stores. We had done it before with the First Ammunition brand, so I understand the process of it, but it's making sure the business is in the right place to be able to consistently supply them.
Yeah. That's the thing. In fact, like, making your business scalable before it scales
can destroy you. Yeah,
exactly. So if you scale too fast before you're ready, it causes problems.
Yep.
And that's the big foundational piece of work that can take time. It can take time. It can take a little bit of time. But from your experience, when would you say you feel like things are ready to scale in your business?
There's a book that I love. It's called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. I believe that each of us has two sides to us. One is our reserve side, and one is our side that knows when and how to push. And your inner voice will tell you consistently when and how to push. It's just if you're willing and can listen to when to push and then following those directions. You will give yourself all the direction in the world because you know exactly where you're at. If you follow that to a T, then you will scale correctly. If you let your ego get in play, right? Your ego and everything else that kind of factors into what you want versus what's meant to be, then it will start pushing you in a different direction. So it's really just, and this is why self-work is so important to me, because if I wasn't tuned in with myself, I wouldn't know when and how and where to go. But since I've kind of transitioned to this thinking and understanding how and where to listen for it, that's what's pushed me in the right direction. But really, scaling should come at a point where your business is in a place where it can operate on its own, and your whole sole focus is to go out and grow it. Everyone else on the back end controls the day-to-day. You're controlling the growth of it. And so once your business is in a place like that where you're able to just let it be and you can go and grow it, then you're at the right point to scale.
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So if there's any entrepreneurs, listening to this, then pay attention to that. Pay attention to the fact that you just in your business, because every business has different requirements. It requires different people, different technologies, different, hardware, whatever it is that you're trying to do, make that a point of reference or a checkpoint for your business as far as like when you're ready to scale and grow it. Because if you can step away confidently, then you can grow it confidently.
100%.
Because it's not going to grow unless you have the time to grow it. Because you're as the entrepreneur, that's your job, is to make this thing work the way it's supposed to work. And if you don't have the time, it's most likely because you're trying to like do things that you shouldn't be doing, right?
It's like we all get into business for the same reasons. It's to make money, right? One is to make money. The second's usually for freedom and being able to do what we want. And the third is whatever the dream we have pictured in our head for where we're going. Yeah. What we forget about is that in between part, because the personalities of entrepreneurships are wild. They're everywhere. No one's one and the same. But the one thing we all have in common that I think people forget forget about is that we're all leaders. Whether they believe it or not, whether they know it or not, we're leaders. And that always has to come first, whether it's leading the business, leading your employees, leading the growth, leading the product. Yeah. We're all leaders. And that's really where it starts is leading.
Absolutely. And what kind of leader are you? I think what would you say is a good indication of how good of a leader you are?
I would say how well my team performs. Does my team trust me? How well do they perform? Is the business in the right place? Am I able to get my team from point A to point B? Because the leader is less about me than it is about bringing my people along with me.
Yeah. It's like, that makes good sense. I mean, honestly, you have to be the most selfless. If you're not the most selfless, then maybe there's somebody else on your team. If somebody else on your team is more selfless, then people are going to naturally go to that person. And so you have to make yourself at the bottom of the barrel. So you're the one serving everybody. You're the one, doing the hard things.
Yep.
That are helping solve the hard problems when people need help and things like that. Like, and that's how it is in my line of work. If I can't get an engineer to ask me the questions unless I'm willing to ask them the questions,
right?
Or for help. If that makes sense. Yeah. Like, because in the reality of things, I am not perfect. I can consider myself to be a great engineer, but I make mistakes like anybody. And if I'm not willing to own up to those things in a humble way, then my team, it's very quick that they can see, there's a problem here. There's a problem here, and maybe I shouldn't even be asking, or maybe I shouldn't even be here, right? And that's how you can see it. So churn, with bad leadership, it's very easy to see how quickly the ship sinks, or even gauge like if it's like sinking. And so, very interesting. What would you say is like a good indication of whether or not an employee is or a team member is reaching their full potential? What would be something that you kind of look for that tells you, okay, this person's like progressing in their own, in their own realm?
The first thing I would do is like in our business, we have very open conversations about what our team's goals are, and not goals within the business, but goals within their personal life. Because if you're not helping your team meet the goals in their entire life, they're not going to be good for you no matter what, right? At some point they'll fizzle out, and it doesn't matter how great they are, they'll go somewhere else. But I think the best indication is their openness and willingness, right? If they're willing to show up for you and you're willing to show up for them, that's the indication right there that more needs to be put on them. And then dangle a carrot, give them a little bit more responsibility.
Yeah.
See how they do with it. If they don't do with it, great. Keep them in their lane. Find someone else to give that responsibility to.
That's awesome. In Blake Technologies, we've got an internship program right now with the Dixie Technical College.
Awesome. Love them.
So they're sending us their graduates, and we're doing sort of a program where they can get a real world experience on real client projects and kind of get into the knack of working for a company while they're finding a job. And it's been very interesting to see, how it kind of changes you as a person, because they all have goals. We all have goals, like in our careers, right? And it's just, and I've been very blessed to see how serious everybody on an individual level, how serious they take their goals. It's very easy for me to see who is really driven, like who actually really wants this, versus who doesn't, right. or maybe just doesn't have the, maybe just needs a little push. Right. And so, being a business owner is fun for me in that way.
Yeah.
I find it like extremely exciting, and I get lots of joy out of finding what my teammates want to accomplish and then helping them accomplish it. And then seeing the smiles on their faces as they're accomplishing, as they're like actually making these strides in their lives.
It's like it's a big reason why we show up every day. At least for me, I know for me, I'm going to be successful. I'm going to win, but I'm only going to be successful and win if my team is winning. Exactly. I could win all day, get all the things I want, but if my team is just ants or slaves, if you will, for lack of better terms, then it's not really a win. You've
Right.
achieved so much off the backs of others without bringing them with you. There's something wrong with that.
Yeah. I think there's a way to lose even when you win.
Oh, 100%.
You know?
I've been there. That was my first business. That was 100% my first business. So
Yeah, it's very cool. So Brass Kisses is shipping nationwide. Mm-hmm. You're growing the business. Let me tell you a little bit about a client project that I've had. So a few years ago, I had a client that was in the industry and wanted to build this cool app that essentially allows competition shooting to be digitized. Like the judgment scale, like the grading scale, the point scale. Or I'm not well versed in the realm of competition shooting per se, but I was the lead engineer on the project. Mm-hmm. So I did have the opportunity to learn a lot about it as we were building the project. But essentially the app was designed to allow shooting ranges to create shooting challenges and judge the shooting challenges all inside this one app. And not only shooting challenges that were done in person, so you can schedule a shooting challenge or create a shooting challenge that would be scheduled for a specific day, a time, and a location. Mm-hmm. And you can make it private or public. So, you can invite specific people or leave it open for anybody to come and participate. But it was designed for them to be able to host a challenge without necessarily having to be there in person to grade the submissions.
Interesting. I love that.
And it's all done with video submissions. So the idea is that anybody that wants to participate in a challenge would go to the designated range or to their local range and film themselves, or have the range guide film them doing their submission, and then wherever the competition is being hosted, it could be graded and judged, and winners would be win their prizes.
That'd be awesome. So you could play essentially with people in other states, other locations.
Yes. So you as a user, you can create a challenge. I believe individual users can't create national challenges, but they can create challenges where they can, if they have friends in other states,
right,
they can send the QR code, and only those people would be able to participate in the challenge.
That's
so
awesome.
You can do things like that, but it also works on the opposite end of the scale with professional shooting challenges. We have a range, the Nevada, I don't remember the name of the range, but it's in Las Vegas. Uh-huh. It's the big one, kind of outside of North Vegas.
Yeah. Okay.
They're using that. They're using the app.
Kidding.
To help with some of their challenges. They've used it a few times. We shut down the app about 2 years ago, but before then we had them running a few challenges with the app, and it cut down the ability, because what they would do is they'd have all the shooters, do their thing at the range. They'd have the judges walk around, and it takes time for them to run the numbers and do that. So they'd send everybody home, and then within a week they would announce the winners.
Yeah.
This made it possible to do it all in real time.
Interesting.
So they could announce the winners within 10 minutes of the last person submitting.
Interesting. I really want to have Jamie Villamore, who's one of our sponsored shooters. She's on the women's Team USA team. I'd love to get her input on it. So we'll have to catch back up on this, but I'll definitely be chatting with her about it.
Yeah, this is something that was it was designed to both help with real competition stuff, but also make it fun for anything. And the idea is that you as a shooter can go back and watch your submissions and learn from yourself and yada, yada, yada. It's all a video, like a diary of competitions that you've participated in.
Awesome. I love that. That definitely takes the sport to a new level, and every other sport uses video for training, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and that was what ended up happening.
Being out at the range day in and day out is not very exciting. It becomes boring after some time. So
right, and if you have a company account in the app, you can create a national challenge. So you can create, if you're like a influencer or somebody that can have that we approve to be a business on the account or on the app. You can create a national challenge, so that way you create the challenge, and anybody in the country can just go to their local range and film their submission.
It's so awesome. Participate. I imagine because the influence, like you mentioned, influencer. There's so many influencers and so many different things, but it'd be so awesome to get all the gun influencers to do a challenge together just to see who comes out on top. Because especially in this industry, everybody is so they're so ego based, right? On who's the best and who isn't the best.
Yeah.
It'd be so awesome to whittle down to who is the best.
Absolutely. And you can at local levels too, like local police departments can do a challenge together. I mean, if it's created in a private, because you can create a private or public. If it's private, anybody who's invited can do it. So you can do really cool nationwide police things, or you can do like certain military,
awesome.
Anybody that isn't within this age group or some demographic or whatever, you can do anything.
That's pretty cool.
Think about so that was sort of the idea.
But you said you shut it down?
Yeah, it was shut down because the partner that was kind of in charge of that aspect of the like growing the business, backed out. So what I did, I knew the potential from the beginning. That's why I like joined on to build the thing in the first place. I ended up buying him out of his share. So now I'm 100% owner of the business. And which is pretty much just like the technology. It's just the app.
Yeah.
But I did that and because I just knew that, technically with like one really successful nationwide challenge, it would almost pay for what we built initially, and it would hopefully be able to help fund future work. But that's really why, and I just never did anything with it.
That has to be a thing.
Yeah,
we have such a massive social media following. I want to say massive. We have about 65,000 people that follow us consistently on Instagram anyways. Facebook hates us because of their rules.
Yeah.
Twitter's great, but with Instagram's been wonderful. And so I could really see something like that taking off and being a viable business, viable app.
Yeah.
Especially with how technology is today. And as you're talking, I have all these ideas in my mind of different companies to talk to that can integrate with it. Because the whole e-training, dry fire training is a huge thing, and I feel like it would pair well with this to where it could be something that
totally. I mean, like the technology can be applied to anything, not only just like anything within the realm of shooting, but like any competition sport or any sport. I mean, anything that people want to get better at. The technology is versatile because it's all video based and everything. Mm-hmm. You just update, change the configurations on how things are created, but like for shooting, yeah, totally. It could be used as a training mechanism. Mm-hmm. Create we would be able to eventually, the goal was long term to be able to do live real time, like virtual trainings. Mm-hmm. So a professional could be on there and watch you as you
give you
do
advice.
A drill.
Yeah.
I
think that's smart. I think it should be a thing. I think it should come back.
Yeah, I agree.
Because what's crazy is the amount of, I call them mini celebrities in the gun space. Like I was just at SHOT Show this year. They hold it every year in Vegas, every January. It's the big industry show. Mm-hmm. It's put on by the National Shooting Sports Foundation. And the entire time you're there, you have all these shooters that are they're famous for whoever they're branding for, but they're famous for their competitions or they're famous for whatever they did during the military. But as I sat there and went through this whole convention, you had each person that was stopped by all the other people in the convention just because they hold such a high standard to the sport that I think you'd have a lot of shooters that would offer services, especially on the training end, to help people get better or to help them learn. Because right now, the only way you can go and get better and learn is you go to an actual range or you show up at an actual location and then you work one-on-one with them.
Right.
Logistically, it's hard for a lot of people to do that. Cost-wise, it becomes extremely hard for people to do that.
Yeah, I mean, in Vegas, I don't remember exactly what the cost was. It was expensive. I mean, It costs $20 to $50 to go to the range one time. And that's pretty much what I would want to spend on ammo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you pick and choose between the two, and it's usually the ammo that wins.
Yeah. And so, that's at a very small level. That's essentially what the purpose of the app was supposed to accomplish. We did have a few deals that we did not move forward with because of this was all happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. With, I don't even remember some guy named Jeff. He and his dad have like a TV, a guns TV show. Mm-hmm. It's an old show that's been around for a long time. But anyway, we were supposed to host a national challenge through their TV show. It just never happened, and I feel bad because I was like, that was it. And unfortunately, all the stuff within the business was kind of happening at the same time. And so I've never woken this thing up until like, when we were planning this podcast, I was like, wait a second here.
But see, timing, this is the one thing I love about business and just life in general. Timing happens for a reason, right? So there's a reason that business fizzled out when it did. It wasn't the right time for it.
Yeah. And the cool thing about technology is like, it can be dormant for a while and then we can do some things to spin it back up. And so I've got multiple businesses that are in that state where it's just, it wasn't the right time to try and grow it, or I didn't have the right partners. And so I have purchased quite a bit of my own software back from partners.
I love that.
Just in the hopes that one day eventually I can take that technology and reuse it for other stuff or whatever.
I think this is something that's worth chewing on. We'll have to talk a lot more about it as we move forward. I think
for sure.
Smart.
Maybe we can see a challenge pop up and we can start inviting people to do submissions. We'd have to do some testing and see what we all think about it.
Yeah, I think that'd be so cool.
But yeah, the app is it's on the App Store right now. It's on the iOS App Store. Yeah. It's called Ballistics, Ballistix, with an X on the end. And the logo is like a green target.
Yes, I've seen this app before.
Have you seen it?
I'm pretty sure I've downloaded it at one time.
All right.
It's crazy.
Yeah, but it's dormant. There's nothing on the app. I've stopped because the way it has worked in the past is you can create like local public free challenges too that are not paid to enter. And that was one way that
the possibilities with this are endless, especially on the advertising side for you.
I agree. I mean, I can't even, it was so easy for me to make that decision to purchase it because, like I said, it's either in shooting or some other thing we apply this to. Mm-hmm. I always believed that it would make the money back.
Yeah, so, I mean, realistically, Brass Kisses is what it is because of technology. So we use a lot of listing sites. Okay. So our biggest listing site is AmmoSeek, and all it is a technology site, right? So they have a piece of code that's embedded into our website that crawls it every 5 seconds and checks our quantity or available stock, and then it checks our pricing. And then depending on where you are price-wise, it puts you on a list. So when people come to look for the ammo, you're either first on the list because you're the cheapest, or you're 10th on the list because whatever. Yeah. But it's just a constant code update, and then they make their money by click-through rate. Yeah. And sponsoring and advertising and everything else that you can add to it. So
that's very cool. Mm-hmm. I don't quite remember how the payment feature works in the Ballistics app, but I know that if I think when you create a challenge, if it's public, it's going to be paid. Mm-hmm. Which I think what we had it at, it was like you can pay $3 to enter. The app makes $2, and then the range, whoever created the challenge gets the $1.
Nice.
But it'd be pretty sweet to just make it so, you've got to buy a box of Brass Kisses in order to enter. Yeah. Something like that. That could be your entry fee or something.
I love it. And you would have a lot of ranges. I talk to ranges all the time, especially small ranges that are newer or older, and they just don't have the traction because of their geolocation. Yeah. That would totally dig this opportunity because they'd have the chance to generate more revenue and get their name known. And
it would be pretty sweet because, I mean, like there's all sorts of challenges I can only imagine. We never like scaled this or anything, but the challenges would be like, can we determine whether or not each submission is valid? Mm-hmm. Obviously you just watch the video because it's all filmed inside of the app. You can't edit the video. You can't cut it. You can't, nothing. So it's just raw.
Nice. Okay.
Which makes it so each submission is authentic. Users are not allowed to update or change the submission in any way. Okay. So, which was a huge problem to overcome because at first we were like, oh, let's just take them over to their camera app. But from your camera app on your phone, you can, choose, you can edit stuff.
It a bit,
Yeah. So we had to make our own camera.
What crawls it? What recognizes the challenge? Is there like an AI that's attached to it that awards it, or is it a physical human on the back end that's looking at the challenge?
Well, the data, it's a physical human. So like, let's say we created a challenge, and then 1 million people submitted videos as submissions to that. The app would just sort all of the points because all the points get added up automatically. The app would just pull starting from the best point from the best shooters all the way, and you can just scroll through. And for each shooter, you can watch their video and you can just verify that they did everything correctly.
Right, yeah.
And if they did everything correctly, yeah. And then from there, it's quite easy to find a winner.
Interesting. That's very cool.
Yeah. And so, but the only limitation is range. So like, because you have to do everything all in the one video. If you're in an indoor range, you can just hold the button and bring your target in all like in the submission. But if you're at a range where you got to walk out, it has to be somewhat short range.
Got it. Okay.
So that either you can just zoom in and see the target from the camera when you're standing behind the line, or so like that's the only limitation. Doing long range is difficult.
Yeah.
Unless we did something where you have the guide, like if it's a certified range that we've approved, and the submission is being overseen by somebody at the range.
Yeah, there's always solutions, right?
Yeah, there's always ways to do it, and you can customize the challenge however you want. If you put that as a requirement, then they got to show the guide in the video or whatever. Your shot timer, you show your shot time in the camera as part of your submission.
Cool.
That kind of thing is, okay, all I have to do is just watch the videos of the top 5,
right?
And then just choose a winner from there instead of
simplified their process.
Yeah. And it takes it down from 10 days of analyzing and to 10 minutes.
See, what's cool too is like on the business side, you could approach ranges to promote the challenge. Yeah. And then I guarantee you the ranges that are promoting it would find the solutions to some of these issues.
Yeah. Exactly, and we could just get all the feedback directly from the source.
100%.
So, anyway, very, very interesting circumstance, because this was something I haven't been thinking about it for years, and then all of a sudden,
this brought it back to life.
Yeah, this one podcast, because I've been shooting a bunch. I've like done things with in the industry, but I've never like felt the passion until like just before we were planning this podcast.
I love it,
and so who knows. Yeah, that's my. We'll find out. We'll talk more about this later and see if there's any possibilities there.
I think there is. I think you're onto something with it.
Yeah, we'll have to test it out. Maybe we'll go out and
that'd be awesome.
Test it out.
Yeah,
sounds good to me. So you're gonna have to let me know what is something that you would like to tell everybody, anybody that's listening to this podcast. What is something that you would like them to know that maybe they don't?
Just in general, or about the industry? Or?
This could be about the industry. Well, let's go personal, on a personal level. What's something that like strikes you as something that you wish people knew about you? Like for me, for example, I wish people knew that I was more driven than I let off. I really have a hard time when I'm around people and in public of being serious. I'm so sarcastic and just so dumb. Mm-hmm. Like at least that's how I like intentionally let off that part of myself of just like, I'm not very business focused. I don't care about anything, right. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Well, blah, blah, blah. But really in my mind, I'm very calculated. I'm very like strategic about the things that I do. Sure. Even though as a business owner, you know that it's just crazy. You're trying to get things done all the time, and it looks crazy. It looks hectic. And when you're at work, at home, I kind of let off that I'm not a business person,
That's a good thing though. So, I think that's a good thing.
I think it helps. It makes me sane. It keeps my life okay.
I'm very much the same way. On my day-to-day, and when I say day-to-day, from like 7:30 to 5, it's very, very serious, very focused on what I'm working on. Mm-hmm. Outside of it, I'm the most kind-hearted, loving, very approachable. I think that's the one thing. Ever since I moved here, I've had a beard, and I've always constantly told that I look mean or I'm intimidating. Yeah. But I'm the nicest person in the world, the biggest heart in the world. I give more than I get. So I think that would be the one thing I would tell people is very approachable, very kind-hearted. If you have questions, come and ask me. Reach out to me on social. I'll talk to anybody, and I'm happy to help anybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like that. And what about like in business? What's something that like you have learned? What's something that you have learned? If you could speak to kind of the entrepreneurs, if there's anybody that listens to this that is trying to grow a business or start a business, what is something that you have learned recently that has helped you? or even in your past experience?
Don't stop asking questions and don't be afraid to talk to people. I wish I would have known this when I started my first business, because being 24, I just assumed that I needed to know everything and do everything. And so I kind of took that path that I needed to know everything and do everything. Now I take the approach that I'm stupid and know nothing. And I want to keep it that way, because then I get to learn every day. And there's people out there that's always going to do things better than any of us do. And so if you can approach and talk to those people about how they're doing things, that'd be my best advice. My second best advice would be to be in creation, not competition. You're always going to have a sense of competition in business, because you want your business to be better than whoever your competitor is, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But don't compete, create. Go and collaborate with them, especially in ammunition. I found a way for us to set ourselves apart by how we brand, how we look. That was the one thing I hated about the industry, is everybody is the same. Everybody looks tactical. Everybody has this image of what cool is. And so with Brass Kisses, I wanted it to be fun and different. And I wanted to create alongside other people. Same thing in the plumbing industry. It's extremely competitive, especially here in St. George. And rather than looking at it that I have competitors that I need to beat, now I have like-minded business people that I can work with, and how can we work together? And that would really be my second best piece of advice.
Yeah, I like that. It's very tempting to go into your shell and let me just do everything myself. And maybe there's a little tint of I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Because we all kind of,
it's that damn ego. That ego gets us every time.
Exactly. But yeah, you're totally right. Things launch forward when you just like find the right person that knows what you really don't know. And it could be just one conversation even that just changes your business, like totally takes you to the next level.
And that's the beautiful thing about business is, like, I'm not going to sell every piece of ammunition in the world. And I know that, right? And same thing in plumbing. I'm not going to plumb everybody's house in the world. And I know that. I know that there's going to be other people out there that do it. So how can we help make each other better?
Yeah. Yeah. So plumbing, you have a business in plumbing?
Yeah, plumbing, HVAC, electrical. I had no idea how to plumb, do HVAC or electrical.
What's the name of this company?
Dino Plumbing. And
Dino
Service
Plumbing.
Pros, yeah.
Dino Plumbing and Service Pros. So tell me a little bit about this. What was the process of, how long have you guys been in business? Are you in the Southern Utah area?
Yeah, so we're in Southern Utah and Boise, Idaho. And we're working on a location in Salt Lake and a location in California.
All right.
We've been open just about 2 years. I got 2 business partners in that venture. And when we left the business we were at, because the whole industry kind of changed a lot from where it was mom and pop businesses to now private equity firms buying them out and looking at the bottom dollar versus the customer. We wanted to change it back to, hey, we're a customer-based business, and the customer's going to keep calling us if we keep that approach. And so that's really what we've gone out and strive to do is how can we one, be better for the customer, and how can we two, give back to the community? So our focus is always customer and community first. Everything else kind of has fallen with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's totally true.
Oh, yeah.
If you focus on the customer, then, the customer's going to come back to you.
Yeah. And the customer is always right? You take care of your customers, they're going to take care of your business. And take the customer is always right with a grain of salt, because we all know they're not always right.
Right.
But
yeah.
in the sense that if you take care of them, they'll take care of you. It's 100% true.
Yeah.
You just have to find that middle ground.
Yeah. 99% of the customer is right.
Yeah.
99%. There's always that one that just don't listen to them.
Yep. 100%. And it's going to happen. So pick and choose your battles. But I'm a big believer that there's a solution in everything. And even in the worst situations, you guys can find a middle ground to leave on good terms. Yeah. It's just sometimes you have to have the hard conversations that most people aren't willing to have.
Yeah. And I think, in the grand scheme of things, the hard conversations make more easy conversations in the future.
Oh yeah,
right?
100%. And you're not walking around town with your tail between your legs.
Yeah.
You can hold your head up high.
Yeah.
And it's kind of one of my prides is in the tough moments. I like to show up and be in the tough moments, because I know whether the company succeeds or I succeed in that moment, someone's winning. All
right. So Dino Plumbing is in Southern Utah and in Idaho, right? Mm-hmm. How do you manage that?
So we have here, me and my partners manage the business, and every day we're working to have the team manage the business. So that's a big part of our push right now, is making sure our SOPs align with everything so we can plug and play this in other areas. We took what we did here and plugged it into Boise.
All right.
And then we have a manager up there that manages Boise. And then any problems that he's unsure about, he'll ping one of the three of us to make sure that he has the answers to the solutions he needs. But really, it's just like for us, our big thing is one, the marketing and the customers and making sure that we do the work correctly, quality of work. And really just keeping the focus there helps the business grow. The back end stuff, if you've already done it once, you can plug it in another location and do it again. So it's just making sure it runs smooth with the management team there.
I love it. That's really awesome. So what is a crazy story that you have from plumbing in your experience? Because I have a brother-in-law that's a plumber here in town, and he always has something, something crazy
something
with
wild
a client.
That happens. I'll share a story. We shared this on our podcast, but the craziest experience, and this is because I'm never in the field. My stories are like fighting with the banks or the supply houses or
the fun stuff. Yeah,
right? Making sure the business runs smoothly.
Yeah.
But I have a friend that works in the industry I used to work with. He went to a customer's home and installed a bidet at his house.
All right.
And the customer said, "Okay, I want to make sure this works." And so the plumber said, "Okay, then I'll let you test it out. I'll wait outside." And the gentleman says, "No, I'd like you to be in here while this works." And so this customer took a dump right in front of the plumber. He paid him for the moment, but took a dump in front of the plumber to make sure the bidet worked properly and that everything was fine, even down to the point of like wiping himself and showing him that it was working. But that's the craziest one I've heard.
That's pretty, wow. Yeah. The audacity, man. That's awesome. That's funny. Yeah. Super cool. So, Brad, you're representing Brass Kisses and Dino Plumbing today. Where can we find you?
All over. So Brass Kisses, you can find online, brasskisses.com, or on Instagram and Twitter at Brass Kisses. And then Dino Plumbing, you can find us everywhere. Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Nextdoor, every single place that's out there, you can find us, and it's just at Dino Service Pros.
Awesome. And we're going to see Dino Service Pros on the St. Jeezy app here shortly too, I think,
find
right?
both of us on there. Yeah, Brass Kisses and Dino Service Pros. So they'll have some great offers that are coming up, especially within the next week. We'll have some new offers being put out. Awesome.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast there, Brad. And
thanks for having me. This is awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.